You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of April 11th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we noticed that our virtual currency, Bosco, isn't exactly flying off the digital shelves yet, and we think this is because you all don't realize what a bulletproof hedge against tariff-induced market collapse Bosco can be. It's the Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Bosco is a revolutionary, decentralized cryptocurrency designed to hedge against global trade volatility and tariff-induced market fluctuations. This next-generation digital asset leverages advanced blockchain protocols and cross-border smart contracts to create a uniquely tariff-resistant store of value.
In today's fractured geopolitical landscape, Bosco's proprietary Tariff Shield algorithm dynamically arbitrages international trade disparities.
Bosco's distributed ledger technology operates on a proof-of-stake consensus mechanism, tracking in real time both tariff implementations and clawbacks, allowing for seamless portfolio rebalancing during today's volatile trade wars. Don't let your wealth be held hostage by protectionist policies. Join the Bosco ecosystem, where financial sovereignty meets borderless commerce in the new paradigm of decentralized finance.
Yeah, come on, dummies. Join Team Bosco right now. And the reason you need to shelter your income in a hurry? This is from CNBC. Quote, Donald Trump just threatened to cause an unprecedented global financial crisis.
Again?
Uh-huh. In an interview Thursday on CNBC, Donald Trump broke with tired cliches about the evils of federal debt accumulation. I'm the king of debt, he said. I love debt. I love playing with it. But he replaced fear-mongering about debt with an even more alarming notion, a bankruptcy of the United States federal government that would incinerate the world economy. I would borrow knowing that if the economy crashed, you could make a deal. And if the economy was good, it was good. So therefore, you can't lose, unquote. Oh, I'm sorry. That dire warning about a potential Trump-triggered financial crisis was from May 6th of 2016.
You know, I thought it sounded kind of familiar to me.
Yeah. Remember when he thought you could just go to bankruptcy court and declare the country bankrupt and just, screw everybody over and get them to accept pennies on the dollar, and that would solve everything.
He was promising pennies on the dollar. Yeah, he was.
He was, because he's a moron.
The article continues. With his statement, Trump not only revealed a dangerous ignorance about the operation of the national monetary system and the global economic order, and he's had time to learn.
Yeah.
And he has not learned anything.
No.
But also offered a brilliant case study in the profound risks of attempting to apply the logic of a private business enterprise to the task of running the United States of America. This is how business people think. No, this is how Republicans think. But the article says this is how business people think, especially those who work in capital-intensive industries like real estate. And for good reason. This is the right way to run a real estate company. Applying this idea to the United States would destroy the economy, unquote.
Yeah.
And I remember when I lived in Alabama, the governor of Alabama saying, why can't we run the government like a Waffle House?
Right.
And then the Alabama Gulf Shore was hit by a hurricane.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's like, well, I can't print money.
Right.
So what am I going to do? Well, you're going to turn to the federal government, and President Barack Obama is going to come and help Alabama rebuild.
Yeah. I don't know of any Waffle Houses that are in the business of doing all the things that nobody else wants to do because you can't make money at it.
Right.
Because that's what the government does. It does all the things that private enterprise will not do because they can't make money off of doing it.
Yep.
Now, 9 years later, and the question this time around is, what the fuck is with these insane tariffs? No one has a plausible explanation for what Trump is doing except for the obvious one, which is he rigged the markets to go up and down on command to make himself and his cronies even richer. Warning them in advance of a crash so they could sell short, warning them in advance of a pullback of tariffs so they could buy the dip, right? Completely illegal, but since the criminals are now in charge of the government, nothing's going to be done. However, as a service to you, after calling everyone we know in this administration, we finally located a spokesperson who will explain everything. So get ready for a clear, cogent explanation of what's going on here. He claims to be an economics PhD from the University of Moscow, and his name is, I believe, Yakov.
Try this elixir, it's sure to quench your thirst.
Hey.
Try this elixir, it's best for what it's worth.
Hey.
Gurgle, 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 gurgle.
And now, good people, step close to my rostrum that you may see all with your own eyes. I, Yakov Guri, physician to princes and crowned heads, have come among you to exhibit absolutely free of charge a wonder of the world, unparalleled since the dawn of time. Are you ready, my friends? The Egyptian marvel, the treasure of the pharaohs. Behold!
As some of you might already have figured out, that was from the 1949 film The Inspector General, starring Danny Kaye, Walter Slezak, Barbara Bates, and Elsa Lanchester. It is very, very loosely based on the 1836 play Revizor, or The Government Inspector, by Russian dramatist Nikolai Gogol. Now, when it comes to Gogol, I have my preferences. I'm more of the nose kind of guy or the overcoat kind of guy. But given our dire circumstances, the Inspector General seemed way more appropriate. The plot of the movie, in short, is that a good but naive member of a band of gypsies named Jorge is kicked out of the group by their leader, Yakov, who you just heard from on the audio. Jorge wanders into a town run by a corrupt mayor, and through a series of wacky mix-ups, ends up being sentenced to death, as happens sometimes in these movies with Danny Kaye. The mayor and his henchmen are all terrified because they heard that the emperor has sent an inspector general to root out corruption, and they are very, very, very corrupt, and that he will be showing up in disguise. Oh, no. And through a series of other wacky mix-ups, they mistake Jorge for the inspector general. And just like that, he's out of jail and being wined and dined by the mayor and his henchmen. Now, the original play is supposedly based on an anecdote allegedly passed on to Gogol by Alexander Pushkin, another Russian novelist you may have heard of, and is a comedy of errors which satirize human greed, stupidity, and the political corruption of the contemporary Russian government.
Because when it comes to telling an audience something important and getting them to remember something, be moved by something, and tell their friends about something, story is king. Mm-hmm. Gogol could have written a dry Wall Street Journal article about greed and political corruption, and that would have been forgotten long ago. But with a good story, with memorable, relatable characters and a good dose of humor, stories like that get repeated and passed along because they're fun.
Yeah, exactly. And memorable.
And memorable. And the story is more important than facts, much more important, because facts do not speak for themselves. And unlike mere facts, stories are not limited by things that actually happened and people that actually exist. Now, parables and metaphors are the oldest forms of teaching. For example, the factual accuracy and literality of the parable of the Good Samaritan is not something we even need to talk about here. That gets in the way. The parable of the Good Samaritan is a story which is more than 2,000 years old and recounts an event which definitely did not happen. And yet, it has not only stood the test of time, it is one of those Bible stories that makes its way into popular culture. Mm-hmm. Many, many times over the centuries. It's about an expert in Jewish law trying to look smart in front of Jesus and in front of the crowd. Mm-hmm. So he asked, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus replied, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" Flipping the question back on him. The lawyer answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus says, "You have answered correctly. Do this and you will live." But the lawyer wanted to justify himself, and so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" And this is where the story takes a turn. Jesus replies, "A man was going down," he starts a story, "A man was going down to Jerusalem from Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and we saw the man. He passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, pass by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Mm-hmm. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Mm-hmm. When Jesus said go and do likewise, did he literally mean go wait on the Jericho road for someone to fall into a ditch and then help them out? Of course not. This lesson is a moral lesson about how you behave to those less fortunate. Mm-hmm. And the story is the delivery system.
Exactly. Exactly right. And that's what stories do. All great literature does this because empires come and go, kingdoms come and go, leaders come and go, but human nature remains the same. It's always the same. So The Crucible by Arthur Miller is about the madness of the mob, right? And The Enemy of the People by Heinrich Ibsen from 1882, which is still being performed, is about what happens when personal integrity clashes with the community's demands. The community demanded that the springs stay open, that spas stay open because that was how they made their money. It's basically Jaws. Mm-hmm, it's a retelling. Mm-hmm. It's where Jaws comes from. The man of science says the water is poison. It's going to kill people. And the community says, but that's how we make our money. That's the whole play. And that is a conflict that is eternal. Antigone is written by Sophocles in 441 BC. It's about the aftermath of a civil war. This is a spoiler. I should tell you. I'm going to tell you what Antigone is about. It's about a civil war in which 2 sons of Oedipus, Eudocles and Polynices, please excuse me if I'm mispronouncing those, they kill each other, and where the new king and their successor, Creon, decides to punish Polynices for his disloyalty by not burying him properly. He's just going to leave him on the plain out there for the buzzards and the wolves to eat, which is incredibly disrespectful. Antigone is the daughter of Oedipus, and she defies Creon's decree, the king's decree, and buries her brother, which leads to a conflict between her individual conscience and the dictates of the state. So, eternal stories on eternal subjects. Even comedies like The Inspector General are eternal in their own way. For example, what's the central message of His Girl Friday? Which, if you don't know what that is, you should go watch it right now. It's the power of the press. What's this message of Sullivan's Travels? That wealthy dilettantes have no idea what the hell they're talking about and should maybe stick to what they do well rather than trying to improve the life of people they don't understand. All of these plays and movies and books last because they tell a compelling story.
Are there any Ted Lasso fans out there? You'll notice on the show, when confronted by the British sporting press with ridiculous and aggressive questions, Ted and eventually his protege Roy don't try to fight over the facts. Instead, they take a step back and tell a story, preferably a personal story, with a moral. Mm-hmm. After addressing something that one of his teammates has done, which was objectively wrong, the Roy Kent character tells the press a story from his own life. Then he wraps it up with a moral.
Look, I get that some people think if they buy a ticket, they've got the right to yell whatever abusive shit they want at footballers. But they're not just footballers. They're also people. And none of us know what is going on in each other's lives. So for Isaac to do what he did today, even though it was wrong, I give him love. And as for why he did what he did, that's none of my fucking business.
Now we're going to get to politics. Mm-hmm. Because this is what too many Democrats don't understand. That a good story beats a mere fact every time. Republicans are really good at telling a story.
The same story.
And it's the same story they've been telling for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
The story they tell is that America-hating commie Democrats love the evil federal government because Democrats use the evil federal government to steal money from hardworking real Americans and then take their guns and leave them defenseless so liberals and immigrants, so liberals can give away to the lazy and undeserving and immigrants who are not real Americans.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
This is the through line of every lie Republicans tell.
Yes. You can trace it right back to
Democrats are evil baby killers who want to take away your stuff.
Right. And give it
to undeserving people.
Give it to undeserving people. That's it. That's foreign policy. Democrats want to take away your hard-earned money and give a half of the U.S. budget away to a bunch of people in countries to the shithole countries.
Which is, a lie. It's a lie.
And the number of people I've known in my life who swear that 40% of the U.S. budget is given away to foreign aid. Because they heard that from, Jesse Helms 30 years ago, and it stuck with them. But this is a lot, and this is because this is the structure. They built this structure, and they can hang on this structure all the lies they want to tell, because they all tell the same lie. This is the business model of Fox News. Always come back to this lie, this central lie. So if you drive down like I-55, the highway, one of the highways that cuts through our state, you'll see 4 signs in a row, like old Burma Shave signs, each one telling one part of a simple rhyming story on every sign. So here's examples. Criminals menacing, a lady alone. Deterrence requires more than a phone. The next one in line is dial 911, and I'm on hold. Sure wish I had that gun I sold. So,
and then it says, guns save lives.
Guns save lives. And these are, you can find these up and down the highway.
Yep.
And the message is, crime is rampant, cops are useless, and you better well arm yourself or you'll probably end up dead. And that is a message, very simple. 4 simple signs up and down the highway. Now, you remember the main attack line of the Affordable Care Act? Anybody remember that? I'm sure all of our listeners do. It was the scary black man, Barack Obama, wants to give away your tax money to moochers who didn't take care of themselves or their health. Meanwhile, he wants to kill your sainted white meemaw with his evil death panels.
Death panels, Drip Glass.
Those death panels. It's the Reagan welfare queen lie, repeated over and over and over again in different guises. A story told 1,000,000 times in 100 different ways to justify the worst kind of malice and racism and corruption. And yet, we good Democrats, we good liberals, keep bringing more and more facts to the table as if we think that will change anybody's mind. But nothing changes. They never change their fucking mind. Why is that? Why does the Republican base refuse to believe the horrendous things that Trump administration is doing right out in the open? Why? More than that, why are these dummies so fucking proud of the fact that they refuse to believe irrefutable facts, even when what Trump is doing hurts them personally? Mm-hmm. It's because the other half of the story Republicans tell is that anyone who tells them anything they don't want to believe cannot be trusted.
It was 50 years ago this week that Richard Nixon's vice president, Spiro Agnew, gave a speech to a Republican organization in Des Moines. The gist? That television news was out of step with what most Americans think. It was a turning point for conservatives and pointed us to where we are today. November 1969. All 3 broadcast networks carried Spiro Agnew's speech about television news live, and he was none too kind to the men who ran the industry.
The views of a majority of this fraternity do not, and I repeat, not represent the views of America.
Saying the power of television cannot be compared to the print press, Agnew claimed the networks were censoring a conservative point of view.
Now, a virtual monopoly of a whole medium of communication is not something that Democratic people should blithely ignore.
Richard Nixon credited Spiro Agnew with emboldening his own criticism of the press.
It was not a good one on the whole goddamn free network, not one.
Now, 50 years later, there are comparisons of the Nixon era to the Trump presidency.
Where was that story? In the New York Times? Well, the New York Times is fake news.
We Democrats don't need better facts. We already have all the facts. We need better stories. And we need them told loudly and confidently from every soapbox we have. Mm-hmm. And I had to kind of not spank, that's too strong a word, but I had to object, let's put it that way, to some like-minded folks on Blue Sky today who were saying Congress passed cuts to Medicaid. Mm-hmm. That is so the wrong story.
Right.
Republicans passed cuts to Medicaid.
The Republican House.
If you can't tell that story, and it really was, there were no Democrats that voted for that bill today. Zero. Mm-hmm. If you say Congress instead of Republicans, when it is literally only Republicans voting for something, get some media training.
Right. Right.
And the only media training you need is check to see if it's Republicans and then say Republicans.
If you're saying voters want this and voters want that when it's Republican voters, if you're saying the American people did this and that when it's just the fucking Republicans,
it's just the Democrats. Yeah. The American people want stable health care and a stable economy. Mm-hmm. No, Democrats are the ones that voted for that.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It really does matter. It doesn't matter the first time you do it, but it matters the 10,000th time that deliberate misinterpretation is told in the legacy media because they're terrified if they identify Republicans by name and by party. First of all, they'll get attacked on Fox, and then they might get beaten in the street by MAGA mobs. Mm-hmm. So they don't want to do it. They don't want to take that risk. So we have to take that risk. We're the ones who have to say, no. It's Republicans who are doing this. Why do you keep pretending that it's all of Congress or all of voters or all of America?
Especially when the vote says flat out that no Democrats voted for this. And nearly all Republicans voted yes. Mm-hmm. So I want to read you a passage from a New York Times article from March 21st, 2025. This is not from the healthcare column or from some sort of home forum column. This is from the money column, the financial pages. And it's by Ron Lieber, who is a New York Times money columnist. And I will tell you, he is writing for and to wealthy New Yorkers. And the title of his article is The Big Secret About Medicaid. It's a middle-class benefit. And here we go. I never thought that Medicaid would become an issue in my family, but it has. That was the first line of a note I received this week from a retired investment industry veteran whose autistic son receives coverage from the program. A similar email arrived from one of the most affluent towns in California. Yes, Medicaid primarily serves Americans with the lowest incomes, and you may not count yourself among them. But now that the program is potentially on the chopping block as Republicans in Congress, thank you very much, seek to make up to $2 trillion in spending cuts, it's a good time to consider others who qualify. It could be an aging parent who needs nursing home care, whose significant nest egg has been drained after 20 years of retirement. Or it could be a 26-year-old adult child who can't be covered on your health insurance anymore, but is not yet making much money. Or perhaps it's a severely disabled child. Millions of people who are financially comfortable now, and of course that's who he's writing for, may be just one bad break away from needing Medicaid for themselves or a member of their immediate family. Without coverage, the cost of care for an aging parent or a sick or disabled child of any age can be ruinous. Often middle-aged people are astounded when they start helping an aging parent or another relative and find that the median cost of a semi-private room in a nursing home is $111,325 a year. They're relieved when nursing home employees tell them that their parents will qualify for Medicaid once those parents draw down their own funds, or maybe they've already done that. But it won't cost the adult children anything. This is everybody's coverage, said David C. Grabowski, a professor of healthcare policy at Harvard Medical School. People in their 50s don't usually boast about their 26-plus-something children being on Medicaid. I know of 2 recipients in my financially well-off circle in this category because I inquire about such things. Ask around. They're probably in your circle, too. My friend Mr. Smith's grandmother turned 100 and could no longer live alone. Medicaid paid for her nursing home care until she died. Medicaid supports everyone, including us upper incomers, Mr. Smith said. Mr. Smith sent me the loveliest picture of his family, and he wasn't the only one who shared snapshots. But the messages with some of these photos were harrowing. When parents hear about the possibility of even moderate Medicaid cuts, they are scared out of their minds. They're also teeming with rage at what they see as the cruelty of it all. President Trump has promised not to cut the program. Rhetoric around Medicaid fraud, waste, and abuse floats in the ether, but there is no formal legislative blueprint yet. Well, today there is.
Yeah, literally
Voted
today.
Entirely by Republicans. Entirely Republican votes. Going on with the article. All we have for now are the statistics and the stories. The statistics are these. Medicaid pays for roughly 50% of long-term services and support like nursing homes and in-home care. And the program covers more than 70 million people. 70 million people.
Of your fellow citizens.
The stories are yours to tell and to coax out of others who might otherwise be disinclined to discuss a delicate part of their financial lives. Yeah, rich people don't want to talk about how they might need financial help from the government.
But
when your mother's care is over $111,000 a year, and more than that if she has Alzheimer's, this is the end of the article. Talk about it. Celebrate it, said Brittany Vandersalm, who spent years working for consulting firms that help states improve their Medicaid programs. It's something to be proud of. You've made a great decision for yourself in seeking and getting care. Unquote. It's absolutely true. You didn't abandon your mother.
No.
You called a place for mom.
You found a way to help her, to support her in her old age.
And let her have dignity.
Yeah.
And let her have a safe place to be.
Well, and why were all the Medicaid expansion blocks, all the states that wouldn't do Medicaid expansion, they were all Republican states.
Yep.
And they all did it because they hated Barack Obama.
Yeah.
They hated the black guy, and it was just making their skin crawl that they had to take money from
very much concentrated in the Old South.
Oh yeah.
You know.
This has absolutely nothing to do with anything other than the depths to which the MAGA brain is rotten and poisoned and beyond reach.
Yep. And I just want to point out, we talked about Donald Trump in 2017 being a fucking idiot when it comes to the economy.
2016, darling. 2016.
Well, 2016 and he was elected he was inaugurated in 2017. And that's when he tried to get rid of Obamacare.
Right. Oh no.
Remember that?
I vividly, and my wife, I remember my wife's reaction to it too. Oh
yeah. Crying.
Yeah.
All of our children know that Donald Trump and Republicans made their mother cry. And I'm sure our children are not alone in that.
No, of course not.
The stress of that. And the last time this happened, when, Donald Trump and Republicans held a party in the Rose Garden to celebrate taking health insurance away, the littlest lobbyists, disabled children in wheelchairs, came to Washington to be the face of Medicaid and tell their stories.
I remember.
Town halls were filled with weeping women, most of them white, who told Congress people, went in front of the microphone, weeping that they would be dead without the Affordable Care Act. And 41 Republicans lost their seats in the House of Representatives in 2018 because they voted to end health care for Americans in their districts. And even though John McCain's thumb prevented that from happening, the fear and panic and trauma that Republicans put Americans through with that vote, with that bullshit, it's back again. It drove people to the polls in 2018. And all of this bullshit, all of this cut Medicaid so that we can give Elon Musk a tax cut. No sense behind it. The tariffs up and down. Elon Musk cutting veterans from the budget.
You remember, you mentioned weeping women at town hall meetings.
Yeah.
You might remember that when the Tea Party, the fake Tea Party, got going, it was all the Katie Abrams
Right. Right.
of the world who were well educated, well off, lied consistently about never being interested in politics before, just suddenly got interested. They didn't want their country to turn into Soviet Russia. We're turning the country into Soviet Russia because, providing a healthcare system for people in need who will be medically bankrupt if they're sick, or 100 other reasons, is turning my country into Soviet Russia. And they were the women who were screaming their heads off at town hall meetings and yelling at Arlen Specter and telling them, "Don't you dare pass this." Was it because the country was no? Well, first of all, now all those people are in love with Russia because Trump loves Russia, and secondly, it had nothing to do with Soviet Russia. It had to do with these racist right-wing assholes who hate the fact that a black man was trying to give the country something that has now become very popular. It's half a loaf, and we all know that. And that and they were smart about it. The analysts knew that if you give this to them, you'll never get it back. I think Bill Kristol said if these people ever get a hold of healthcare, you'll never be able to take it away from them. So you can't let them have it in the first place. And they were right. And now they're coming after the Medicaid program.
They're coming after nursing home care.
Yeah. They're coming after your kids. They're coming after your mother. They're coming after your adults' children who can't afford health care themselves. They're coming after your family.
Right.
Don't you understand? They're coming after your family. And they're doing it to give tax cuts to Elon Musk.
Right.
Why aren't you mad? Why aren't you out in the streets right now screaming about that? Why isn't your congressperson hearing from you right now? What the hell do you think? What the hell are you thinking? Trying to take my family's insurance away from me. You son of a bitch. That's it. Who's your opponent? I want to give him money right now.
Right. Right. In the meantime, Donald Trump's manipulating the stock market to make his friends rich.
Yeah. Which you should be mad about.
And my, and I'm saying this as an example. I don't have this, but the teachers' pension funds across the country have lost $10 billion.
Yeah, just like that. And my mom was a teacher.
Yeah.
And, my dad was a principal. My sister was a teacher.
And my dad's living on an AFSCME.
Yep.
He was a state college professor. He's living on an AFSCME pension.
They're coming for your favorite teacher. They're coming from that English teacher that you loved so much. They're coming for your family. They're coming for you. And if they don't get you this way, they might black bag you on the street and ship you off to some foreign country if you open your mouth.
Because you liked a Facebook page, that was critical of Donald Trump.
And just to make it very clear, reiterating it for the millionth time, this is what your Republican family members and church members and colleagues and neighbors voted for. This is what they wanted. And now they're getting it. And so don't let any of these people pretend that this wasn't what they had in mind, that it didn't mean to do it. This is what they voted for. They knew he was a fascist. They knew he was coming after their stuff. They knew that he didn't give a shit about this country. And they voted for him anyway because they'd rather die than vote for a black lady who was smart and who would never have done any of this shit. Anyway.
Hey, Driftglass, let's do a news roundup.
Sure. Let me get off my soapbox and let's do a news because that'll cheer me right up, Blue Gal.
I love you, Driftglass.
I love you too.
So from the actual White House, this unsubtle press release in all caps, do not retaliate and you will be rewarded.
Yeah.
I can't. Hands up, I can't. If you ever thought to yourself, I wonder what it would have been like living in Chicago during the reign of its last Republican mayor, Big Bill Thompson, while Alphonse Capone was pulling the strings. This is it.
Yeah, this is pretty much it. This is the Untouchables. This is Al Capone is in the White House pulling his strings for his friends to make him rich. This is from Vox. Some elite Trump supporters are having regrets. Oh, no. We asked them why.
Oh, no.
Oh, I know why. Just ask me why, and I'll tell you why they did this.
Why?
Because they're stupid, greedy, racist assholes, Blue Gal. After the tariffs, they're worried that they made a MAGA mistake. President Donald Trump's tariffs haven't only demolished trillions in wealth and raised the chance of a global recession, they've also led some prominent Trump supporters to wonder whether they made a mistake, a huge mistake. Trump supporters ranging from mega investor Bill Ackman, to anti-vax influencer, that's a hell of a thing down on your resume, Alex Berenson, have expressed remorse about their decision to support Trump in November. Some have been harsh. Razib Khan, a geneticist and influential science writer on the right, called himself rat-fucked and wrong for discounting the risk that Trump would actually that Trump would actually do the tariffs. The reason I stumbled over my words there was because the guy's a fucking scientist.
Yeah.
Presumably he's used to evaluating data, looking at evidence, figuring shit out. And he's like, what? He did the thing he said he was going to do. I'm so surprised. And, resign, leave the country right now. The article continues. Richard Hanania, a pundit prominent enough to occasionally swap DMs with Elon Musk on X, has gone the furthest. Last week, he published a lengthy Substack essay explaining why he now believes his reasons for voting for Trump were mistaken, unquote. So you can put that right up on the shelf with the David Brooks column about, I should have seen this coming.
Well, in 2016 to 2020, there was at least a little bit of a functional Congress, much more than there is today.
A little bit.
And I think some of these guys they're all guys, by the way, who thought Trump wouldn't do the tariffs this way, thought he's going to have to work with Congress to get the tariffs he wants.
Yeah.
And they didn't realize that Congress was that's the thing that they couldn't have predicted, that Congress would simply bend over and grab their ankles and say, Donald Trump gets whatever he wants.
And the reason they must have believed that is they weren't paying any attention whatsoever to what was going on in Congress.
To the Republican Congress.
Right.
Yeah. All right. The legacy media strikes again from fairness and accuracy in reporting. Quote, burying the news. Despite the scale and significance of the protests, neither the New York Times nor the Washington Post had stories about them on their front pages the next day. The Washington Post had a thumbnail at the bottom of the front page with the blurb, Metro, thousands gather in D.C. as protesters rally across the U.S. against Trump. And the New York fucking Times, same day, had a photo below the fold that was captioned, a day of protest. People gathered around the country, including in Asheville, North Carolina, voice opposition to Trump administration policies. See page 18, New York fucking Times. A Times blurb promoting the story in a roundup of stories about the Trump administration's first 100 days minimized the scale and seriousness of the event. Anti-Trump protests. Demonstrators packed the streets in several cities to bemoan what they considered a lack of strong opposition to the president and his policies. The verb bemoan is clearly belittling, and the focus of both organizers and participants was obviously on Trump and Musk, not on the weakness of their opponents. And since when is 1,400 several? Unquote.
Yeah. From MSNBC, quote, Pete Hegseth, senior advisor, is pushing for Pentagon to cut ties with Scouting America. Critics like the advisor, a former Fox News producer, say the group formerly known as the Boy Scouts is too woke, unquote.
From CNN, quote, reality sets back in. Trump and MAGA media are claiming yesterday's partial tariff pause was a win. But so much has already been lost in terms of market value, consumer confidence, and American credibility. Reality sets back in on Wall Street is CNN business editor David Goldman's framing this morning. That reality? Trump's other massive import taxes have already inflicted significant damage, and the economy won't easily recover from the fallout. Explaining reality in the face of hyper-partisan fantasy is what separates serious reporters from stenographers. For many, the second Trump administration has felt like a constant tearing of the fabric of our reality. The Atlantic's Charlie Wartzel writes in this new column. Wartzel describes the tariffs as a reality test for political partisans. But cold, hard facts sometimes don't stand a chance against the internet's justification machine, which Wartzel describes as an efficient mechanism for dispelling any trace of cognitive dissonance. In some cases, falling down the conspiratorial rabbit hole is motivated by grievance. My enemies hate this, therefore it must be good. and any market bounce back after Trump's announcement of a 90-day pause will be taken by true believers as evidence of the president's genius.
That's right.
And you saw this all over Fox last night.
Well, and as we've said on this podcast many, many times, in the face of this horrible outcome in the last election and all the horrible thing, reality will eventually have its way. There are, there's one of our theologian that we listen to says, I don't believe in divine vengeance. I believe in consequences.
Yeah.
There are consequences to stepping out of a 10-story building and expecting you can fly. You will not fly. The ground will come up on you really fast, and then you'll discover that gravity is not a construct that you can overcome by just wishing it away. It's really there.
And Fox News is literally over the past 24 to 36 hours removing the stock ticker.
Yeah, they don't want
from their front page, and then putting it back up when it's going up.
Yeah, it's always good. We've always been at war with East Asia.
Yeah, right.
From Senator, and again, there's the remote. You don't have to watch it. If there's any shred of humanity left in you, you don't have to watch this stuff. You're not being forced to believe this stuff. You're doing it to yourself, by yourself, with nobody putting a gun to your head and making you do it. So this is on you entirely, grown-up adults who have choices to make. This is from Senator Chris Murphy. Quote, today is the 80th day that the United States president is running a backdoor bribery scheme in which any CEO or foreign oligarch can send him money secretly through his crypto coin scam in exchange for favors. This is the biggest scandal in the history of the presidency, unquote. You know what?
And you said to me earlier today that, fixing the stock market is also pretty bad.
Yeah, it's also pretty bad. But, if you are a Bosco coin investor.
All right. We're not pushing that.
No.
This is from Bloomberg. Quote, and this is another scandal.
Mm-hmm.
About 90% of the migrants deported to El Salvador in March had no serious criminal record in the U.S. Of the 238 men accused of ties to the Tren de Aragua gang, 5 were charged with felonies and a few others faced misdemeanors or smuggling charges. The rest were linked to traffic or immigration violations, unquote.
This one's from the Washington Post. Quote, the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to let him fire 2 independent regulators without cause, challenging a 90-year-old precedent that limits presidential power. His lawyers argued that agency leaders like Kathy Harris and Gwen Wilcox undermine executive authority, by telling them to fuck off and let them do their jobs, despite laws requiring a good reason for removal, unquote.
Meanwhile, on Fox, while all of this was going on, it's all scary brown people and trans people all the time, unless they're talking about Donald Trump being a financial genius.
Right. Got to have that.
This was an actual Fox News story. Quote, women's disc golfer refuses to face transgender competitor days after fencer kneels in protest. I most likely ended my career, and that is okay, because this is bigger than me, she said. The women's disc golfer.
Right. She plays Frisbee for a living. And again, this is the same story. It is the evil liberal government wants to force people who are undeserving and take away these good people's right to win at their sports.
Pure white women. Pure women. The purity of women. Right. No.
And because it was too good not to include, we're going to put the New York Times pitch bot in the news summary because it's awesome. Quote, whether it's Republicans causing chaos with random arrests and deportations, Republicans causing chaos with mass layoffs, or Republicans causing chaos with whiplash tariffs, voters are exhausted by chaos from both parties, unquote. That's as true as it gets. Now, a little bit of housekeeping at the end here. This has been a very busy week, and so we're both a little tired. You might have noticed a little tiredness in our voice. We've just had a lot to do, in addition to unexpected automotive problems ongoing, which are taking many, many days longer to resolve than anticipated, and a lot more in terms of financial outlay than we thought. Between us, we have done 4, count them, 4 podcasts already this week, not including this one. In addition to our regular Tuesday show, we were on with our good friend Bob Seska on his show on Wednesday. Then after a quick costume change and a little hydration on my part, I was on with my friend Nicole Sandler on her show. And then you put out another excellent knitting podcast, and now here we are, number 5.
Yeah. Yeah. So we tired.
We tired. We're a little bit tired.
But we're glad to be here. And thank you for listening. Each week we post to our Patreon page and website at Internet Kitty, sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Phoebe. Phoebe is a sweet tortie who does not suffer Republican fools. And of course, Phoebe eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your cat will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured.
And you can visit Phoebe at our Patreon page or website. And you can send your Internet Kitty dog or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, or you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
And do not forget our famous gourmet coffee guidelines. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, or 7 or 12, buy one for us, or 7 or 12. This isn't charity. This is our job, and I think we're pretty good at it. If you can spare $5 a month, please go ahead and spare that $5 a month at patreon.com/proleftpod. Please also, importantly, share our show on social media. We've seen people doing that a lot recently, and we really appreciate it. It really does drive our numbers up and get people onto the message. And if
we want to thank Lisa G for doing a video about our podcast and what it means to her.
Unsolicited.
And it's up at Blue Sky.
I'm just cranking through this, preparing for the show, because Blue Gal, I'm always preparing for the goddamn show.
He is always preparing. Yes.
Type, and looking and listening and researching. Meanwhile, you're like 20 feet away from me at Crooks and Liars, up to your hip waders in all the garbage every day. But suddenly, in Blue Sky, this completely unsolicited, lovely, sweet promotion, kind TikTok, I guess.
It was a short. It was a short. Yeah,
just saying the nicest things about us, and we thought, that really made our day. That really made our day, and in the middle of all the chaos going on around here, it really made us smile. So, share our show on social media, or if you want to do a little video telling the world how awesome we are.
Yeah,
we're not going to fight you.
If you're on TikTok, do a video about our podcast. Yeah,
or get together with several thousand of your friends and do like a chorus of how awesome we are. And really, thank you very much for doing that. It does mean a lot, and we appreciate it.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, as you know, we've been speaking of great books and movies of lasting value, and the Internet Kitties were watching a great one last night where they explained exactly how to deal with Republican voters.
Shun him, drive him back into his jungle lair, for he is the harbinger of death.
Have a nice weekend.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25. GGBG Productions.